The Allied Commander-in-Chief, General Foch, protested to Field Marshal Haig.
Foch is very anxious that no divisions should be reduced. He's sure that out of the 1,400,000 men wearing khaki in England, 100,000 could be obtained to fill out our divisions sufficiently to hold a quiet part of the front and release French divisions for the General Reserve.
The French Prime Minister took the matter up officially with the British government. Reluctantly, Lloyd George released more men to fill the wasted ranks. And Haig, falling in with Foch's plan, dispatched 5 of his weakest divisions to recuperate on a quiet French sector, the Chemin des Dames, along the River Aisne.
To battered, battle-weary troops, whose only knowledge of France was based upon their experience of the Northern Front, the Champagne country, in the full glory of spring, was a revelation. Here, all was peace. The countryside basked contentedly in the blazing sunshine. Trim villages nestled in quiet hollows beside lazy streams, and tired eyes were refreshed by the sight of rolling hills clad with great woods, golden with laburnum blossom.
Here, among the vineyards, where the French peasants were at work within 2 miles of the front line, the British soldiers rested. But their brief holiday was soon over, for it was precisely here, by one of the war's most bitter ironies, that the next German blow was being prepared. Ludendorff's plan was simple. He meant to continue as he had begun, by smashing the main British armies. But first it would be necessary to draw away the French reserves, which had gone to the British front. To do this, he would have to attack the French. The Germans transported their divisions and assembled their artillery opposite the Chemin des Dames in deep secrecy. The short weeks of calm passed by. General Foch asked himself,
what was hidden behind this silence? We knew that the enemy had large numbers of troops at his disposal. Where would they suddenly appear? We searched the horizon, but the mystery remained unsolved.
Not until a few hours before the German attack were the Allied soldiers warned.
The first news reached us about 3:45 p.m. on May the 26th. The enemy will attack on a wide front at 0100 hours tomorrow, 27th inst. Then followed orders for taking up battle station. For a second, we looked at each other in silence. In a flash, the whole world had changed. The landscape around us smiled no longer. The sun still blazed down, but it had lost its heat. For the first time in the war, I had the feeling that there was no one behind us, no help which could be relied upon in case of need.
The blow fell at 1 a.m. on May the 27th. The weak British divisions were right in its path. In overwhelming strength, the Germans swept across the Chemin des Dames ridge and over the Aisne. By evening, they had advanced 10 miles. Nothing like it had ever been seen on the Western Front. On the second day, May the 28th, they pressed forward another 5 miles. But on this day, further to the west, an omen of a different kind appeared. The American 1st Division went into action at the little town of Cantigny.
Watching through binoculars, and they had a creeping barrage that was slowly creeping towards the town of Cantigny, which was situated on high ground. I could see some of the waves of American soldiers as they went forward. I saw many of them fall. I saw some of them get up and follow the barrage again.
The Americans took Cantigny, their first victory of the war. But more than this was needed to stop the great German advance on the Aisne, and something more was forthcoming. As the Germans swept towards the river Marne, reviving all the memories and fears of 1914, a wonderful spectacle was seen by the anxious French.
Swarms of Americans began to appear on the roads. They passed in interminable columns. The spectacle of these magnificent youths from overseas, these beardless children of 20, radiating strength and health, produced a great effect. They contrasted strikingly with our regiments in their faded uniforms, wasted by so many years of war, whose members, thin, their sunken eyes shining with a dull fire, were no more than bundles of nerves held together by a will to heroism and sacrifice. We all had the impression that we were about to see a wonderful operation of transfusion of blood.
It was June the 1st when the Americans entered this fight near Chateau Thierry, another name from the past, a landmark of 1914. By June the 3rd, the Germans were halted. They were 56 miles from Paris. At every level, a dangerous mood displayed itself. French peasants spat on the remnants of British units retreating from the Aisne. The British retorted bitterly.
At this period, the conviction was growing among the rank and file that we were fighting on the wrong side. A conviction I'd heard expressed many times since 1917, but never before with such feeling.
Sharp words were exchanged when the Allied leaders met at Versailles on June the 2nd. Now it was the turn of the French generals to find themselves under the cloud of defeat, as the British had been in March and April. Even the prestige of General Foch was shaken. Foch rounded upon the British Prime Minister, Mr. Lloyd George, with new demands that the British army should be brought up to strength. The argument raged for 2 hours. The French insisted on sending an expert to investigate British manpower. Lloyd George had to agree. Yet the British and French were united on one subject. America must send more men and send them fast. All eyes turned upon General John J. Pershing, the American commander-in-chief. Pershing had his own views of the part America must play in the war. He had made them quite clear from the moment of his taking command.
I was decidedly against our becoming a recruiting agency for either the French or British. While fully realizing the difficulties, it was definitely understood that we should proceed to organize our own units from top to bottom and build a distinctive army of our own as rapidly as possible.
In America, the camps and depots filled. There was a great gathering of men. But the difficulties of making a new United States Army had proved to be beyond anyone's imagining. It was unthinkable that the young, proud American nation should consent to send her soldiers to fight under other flags. As the crises of 1918 developed, the Allies put every pressure on Pershing to change or moderate his plan. But Pershing was made of stubborn stuff. At a crucial meeting in May, General Foch had said,
"Are you willing to risk our being driven back to the Loire?"
Pershing retorted,
Yes, I'm willing to take the risk.
Ludendorff's arguments on the field of battle proved to be more powerful than the pleas of the Allied leaders round a table. With the Germans across the Marne again, Pershing was forced to compromise. He cabled to Washington,
Consider military situation very grave. It should be most fully realized at home that the time has come for us to take up the brunt of the war, and that England and France are not going to be able to keep their armies at present strength very much longer.
Pershing agreed that 250,000 Americans should be brought to France in June, and another 250,000